Welcome everyone to this digital landscape video from Kinase, first part of a new series. I'm Edmund.
And I'm Chris.
A little bit about Kinase itself. We are a digital marketing agency based in London. We offer services in search, social analytics, feeds, video, measurement, and crucially kind of all of those things connected together. So this video, we're going to look at tariffs and digital. That's what's on the agenda. And we're going to start with a top line view, then kind of zoom in on the effect of advertisers pulling back in the US, which we've already seen.
Then we're going to look at the kind of things that we could do, opportunities to mitigate some of these effects, specifically margin bidding. Could that be to the rescue? And where do we go next? So we're in the middle of a barrage of daily tariff and Trump news. We're not going to rehash any of that, but we are going to look at what that means for digital marketers and clients, and what can we actually do to respond and even kind of make, sort of turn some of these challenges into opportunities.
Yeah, and I guess a key point to remember is digital marketing is already built from the ground up on flexible goals, revenue optimization, and a part of that is margin. So the first thing to note is that because of that kind of whole basis for the digital marketing industry, it's already in a good place to roll with kind of tariff changes as they happen. So we should kind of look to our core kind of methodologies. So the first thing I want to look at is changes in the US market, particularly at the advertising landscape. Large Chinese advertisers such as Temu and Shein have already pulled spend in PPC and Meta. That obviously opens up a gap for other advertisers in terms of available impressions and clicks. If we look back at similar rapid market exits, such as Amazon during the pandemic, it did lead to cost per click and CPMs coming down. Do you think that's going to happen this time?
Hard to know, isn't it? So when it definitely did happen last time, but then it kind of bounced back up again. Why did that bounce? Why did CPCs bounce back up again? Was it because people were taking opportunities and coming back into the market where some big advertisers go, other people come in? It's hard to know with the kind of reporting tools that we've got available. Or was it, perhaps more interestingly, was it something like Meta and Google perhaps, pulling the levers behind the scenes to make sure that, make sure that CPCs didn't drop to support their revenue? So it's hard. We don't really know, but we're definitely monitoring sort of client by client basis, sector by sector, and we'll report back.
And then a second element to this kind of change in the US market is product demand. So people who were previously buying from Temu and Shein, for example, no longer have that available. Where will they go? There's clearly an opportunity there for other businesses to pick up some of that demand. So that kind of rapid market entry and the kind of expansion was also on the cards, and another element we're kind of monitoring closely for our clients.
Yeah, when people enter markets, sometimes you can find yourself with competitors that you weren't expecting. Yeah, when people enter a market, they'll kind of go more broadly, and there are maybe some terms or some kind of areas, some targeting, which people may be seeing kind of new competitors in those areas.
So onto the kind of meat of what we're talking about, which is margin and revenue bidding, potentially coming to the rescue in troubling tariff times. The first thing is, why are these kind of potential silver linings? It's because obviously tariffs are a tax on goods. That tax has to be paid by someone. The retailer can choose whether to pass it on entirely in the top line cost to consumers, but more likely it's a combination of kind of taking a slight hit on margins or trying to rejig other costs to mitigate that, and a slight price increase that the consumer will see.
So margin, I mean, we talk a lot about margin. What actually is, what do we mean? I suppose it's the amount of the sale price that we get to keep as profit. So with tariffs kind of coming in and going out, that's going to change, and it could change by country, it could change by product type, could even change by product. So margin-based bidding used in conjunction with target return on ad spend in Google can help quite a lot here. So if the margins swing, then the system automatically allocates spend to the most profitable areas. or takes away from spend from unprofitable areas. And of course, using, especially in Google, the tools are quite reasonably responsive now, so it's quite good at sort of seeing. It's got a good at picking up changes, and we can of course monitor, what's actually happening.
Yeah, and of course, there's lots of different ways that margin bidding and margin optimization can work, from the most complete through to kind of
Basic.
broader brush approaches. The most complete being kind of tracking the margin of every single product and passing that through at the checkout. So you actually see a kind of realistic profit number to optimize to. However, if, for example, you just have a band of products which are shipped from China and big tariffs are going to hit those products very suddenly, you could also put in place a custom label, for example, in Google Shopping for those products so that you treat them differently. You give them a different target ROAS because, their margin has suddenly been halved.
Yeah. I think what I've always liked about margin-based bidding, right from when we started doing it, you can be as specific or as general as you want to be. You can say, okay, this whole product category has this margin. It doesn't have to be necessarily be the real margin, the amount of product profit. It could just be relative. So you have to know your higher, medium, and low products or kind of areas, and you can put it in. And as you can kind of get hold of more richer data from your internal systems, from your data warehouse, then once that architecture is set up, you can kind of feed that in. So that's what's good. It's the kind of, you can get an immediate benefit, but then as your data gets better, you get more and more benefit from it. And you can experiment which levers are important and which aren't, just like everything else. So if you don't have margin tracking or margin tracking set up, if you don't have a kind of concept of, what's product bands, high, medium, and low margins in place, then, obviously it's important. It's always been important. It's even more important now to get that to the top of your development plan. And even if you just use that margin data to observe the movements rather than to kind of allocate spend, not to optimize to, then that's an important first step. And of course, we've been doing this for years, and we can help set that up. We've got some really good case studies which show the real improvements to ROI, to profitability, when we kind of when we've got this sort of stuff set up across lots of different verticals.
Yeah, I think because of those potential complexities, having a really solid margin optimization and tracking plan in place for your digital activity has now been bumped right to the top of the agenda. What else are we actually doing now as an agency?
What are we doing? Well, obviously setting up those kind of margin optimization plans on a client by client basis that we're saying. So another thing is, there's a lot of news, like we just said at the top of this video, this piece of content, analyzing which elements of the tariff crisis, which pieces of news really affect consumer sentiment, which showing up in kind of changes in search impressions, showing up in conversion rates, if any. So just kind of looking at the data that we've got and sort of understanding how people are really reacting in real time. Obviously, for the US specifically, monitoring US market changes, identifying the opportunities, keeping an eye on costs, analyzing auction insights, looking at competitiveness, and working with clients to assess opportunities to enter verticals after other advertisers have pulled back. So many positives, much to do.
So to kind of follow some of our inside agency reports and data on this, sign up to our newsletter and subscribe to this channel so you can find out that kind of inside knowledge as soon as possible, as soon as they're released.
Yeah, that's the end of our first video.
I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like us to delve into in kind of digital and landscape. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.